Imagine this, you wake up one morning and everything feels muted. The sun filters through your curtains, but it doesn't shine the way it used to. You sip your coffee, but the taste is just there. No spark, no sensation, just another habit in a long sequence of repetitive days. You scroll through your phone, watching snippets of other people's seemingly meaningful lives, but instead of feeling inspired, you feel a quiet, suffocating void stretching inside you. You have everything you were told would make you happy. A stable job, a phone filled with notifications, entertainment at your fingertips, occasional social gatherings, and perhaps even a relationship. But beneath the surface, there's a gnawing emptiness. You can't explain it, yet it lingers, an invisible weight pressing against your chest, whispering that something is missing. At first you ignore it. You tell yourself it's just a phase, just stress, just exhaustion. Maybe a vacation will help. Maybe a new hobby. Maybe another self-help book. Maybe a relationship. Maybe a career shift. Maybe. But deep down, you already know the truth. No matter what you do, the emptiness always returns. And here's the paradox. We live in an era of endless choices, infinite entertainment, unlimited connection, everything previous generations could have dreamed of. Life has never been more comfortable, yet we have never been more lost. Depression, anxiety, and existential crises are at an all-time high, even as modern life promises us happiness at every turn. So what's wrong? Why, despite having access to all the pleasures and comforts the world has to offer, do so many people feel so unbearably empty? Could it be that everything we were told about happiness was a lie? Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." Could it be that the real problem isn't in our circumstances, but in something deeper, something hidden beneath layers of distractions, social conditioning, and unexamined beliefs? What if the emptiness you feel isn't a defect, but a signal? What if the very things you've been chasing, the external achievements, the shallow pleasures, the constant distractions, are not filling the void because they were never meant to? And what if, instead of fearing the emptiness, you could listen to it? Let it guide you to something far more real than anything you've ever known. Most people never stop to question why they feel this way. They numb the discomfort with entertainment, overwork, mindless scrolling, or fleeting pleasures. But what if the emptiness isn't meant to be escaped? What if it's trying to tell you something? And more importantly, what happens if you never listen? The answer lies deeper than you think, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Let's go deeper. The emptiness you feel isn't random. It isn't a glitch in your system or a mere side effect of modern life. It has a cause, one that is so deeply embedded in the way you were conditioned to live that you don't even recognize it as a problem. Think about it. From the moment you were born, the world around you started feeding you a script. Society told you what to value, what to chase, what to fear, and what to avoid. It gave you a predefined formula for happiness. Study hard, get a good job, make money, find love, settle down, start a family, buy things, bigger houses, better cars, the latest technology. Stay busy, stay entertained, stay productive. And yet, despite following this script, despite chasing every goal, you find yourself feeling hollow. Why? Because this script was never designed to bring you fulfillment. It was designed to keep you functional, to make you a productive unit of society, an obedient consumer, a compliant participant in a system that profits from your restlessness. Nietzsche warned us about this over a century ago. He spoke of the last man, a creature who has abandoned all higher aspirations in exchange for comfort, distraction, and security. The last man does not seek truth or meaning. He only seeks pleasure, ease, and entertainment. He has no great struggles, no deep suffering, no higher purpose, just a shallow existence designed to avoid discomfort at all costs. Does this sound familiar? Look around. Everywhere you see people numbing themselves, scrolling endlessly, binge-watching, over-consuming, chasing validation through likes and followers. Society has conditioned you to believe that meaning comes from external sources, from achievements, from material success, from social approval. But Carl Jung warned of the consequences of this external focus. He argued that when people neglect their inner world, they create a psychological imbalance, a void that no amount of external success can fill. This is the root of the emptiness you feel. The dopamine-driven cycle of consumption is endless. You get a new phone, a new car, a new job, a new partner, and for a brief moment, it feels good. But soon, the high fades, and the craving for more returns. It never ends, because more was never the solution. 3. The hidden cost of a life without meaning. There's a reason why depression and anxiety have skyrocketed despite technological advancements. A comfortable life doesn't equal a meaningful one. Viktor Frankis, who survived the horrors of a concentration camp, observed that the greatest suffering wasn't physical. It was existential. The people who survived weren't necessarily the strongest, but the ones who had a reason to keep going. In the absence of meaning, the human mind creates its own suffering. It turns to addictions, not just drugs and alcohol, but social media, shopping, workaholism, pornography, mindless entertainment, anything to escape the void. It turns to anger and resentment, blaming the world, blaming others, because it's easier than confronting the internal emptiness. It turns to nihilism, the belief that nothing matters, that life is meaningless, that there's no point in trying. But nihilism isn't enlightenment. It's a symptom of a soul that has been starved for too long. And this is the greatest danger of all. When a person feels empty for long enough, they stop believing that anything can change. They resign themselves to an unfulfilled life. They settle for less. They accept a world that does not nourish them. But what if they're wrong? What if the emptiness isn't a sign of something missing, but a sign of something waiting to be discovered? There is a way out, but it requires a radical shift in perspective, one that challenges everything you've been taught about happiness, purpose, and fulfillment. Are you ready to break free? Let's begin the rebellion. There comes a moment when you realize that the system is rigged, not in some grand conspiracy theory sense, but in the subtle, everyday way that modern life trains you to be passive, numb, and endlessly chasing distractions. But now, you see through it. The emptiness you've been feeling is not a defect. It's not something to suppress or escape. It's a wake-up call, a signal that your life is not being lived in alignment with your true self. So, how do you break free? The answer is not what you think. This isn't about achieving more, fixing yourself, or searching for some mystical enlightenment. It's about unlearning the lies you've been told about happiness, purpose, and fulfillment, and rebuilding your reality from the inside out. Let's dismantle the illusion. Step 1. Stop numbing. Face the void. The first step is the hardest. It's also the most important. Stop running. Stop numbing. Stop distracting yourself. Sit with the emptiness. Feel it fully. No phone, no noise, no temporary fixes. Just you and the silence. Most people can't do this. They instinctively reach for their distractions the moment discomfort arises. But that's the trap, the cycle that keeps you enslaved. Here's what you need to understand. The void isn't the enemy. It's your neglected self trying to speak to you. Carl Jung called this shadow work, the process of confronting the parts of yourself that you've buried, the parts that don't fit the societal mold, the thoughts you were told not to think, the desires you were told were wrong, the questions you were told not to ask. This is why life feels empty, because you have spent too much time avoiding your real self. So sit with it, feel it, let the discomfort come, and then ask yourself, what is this emptiness trying to tell me? Write it down, speak it aloud, let the answers surface. At first it will be terrifying, but then something strange will happen. Clarity will emerge. For the first time you will see through the fog. You will realize that the life you've been living is not your own, that so many of your desires, fears, and pursuits were programmed into you, and you will begin to recognize what is truly yours. This is where the rebellion begins. Step 2. Destroy the false self. Once you've faced the void, the next step is to strip away the artificial identity you've been living under. The version of you that was designed to please others. The version of you that was trained to follow the script. The version of you that was too afraid to question everything. Nietzsche called this process self-overcoming, the act of breaking free from imposed values and creating your own. Here's how you do it. Question everything, every belief you hold about success, happiness, love, even yourself. Where did it come from? Is it truly yours, or was it given to you? Let go of validation. Stop living for approval. Stop shaping yourself to fit expectations. The need for validation is the chain that keeps you imprisoned. Embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't come from comfort. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the chains. Face it, head on. Challenge the need for constant pleasure. True fulfillment is deeper than momentary highs. If you rely on distractions to avoid the void, you will never escape it. Once you begin this process, the false self will start to crumble, and in its place, something real will begin to emerge. Step 3. Reconnect with the forgotten self. Beneath all the conditioning, distractions, and illusions, there's a version of you that is raw, real, and alive. Not the version trained to fit into society's mold, not the version shaped by external expectations, but the version that was there before the world told you who to be. This is where meaning begins. Here's how you reconnect with that forgotten self. Follow your deep curiosities. Not the ones imposed on you, but the ones that have always been there. The things that fascinate you, even if they seem impractical. Create instead of consume. Art, writing, movement, music. Anything that pulls something out of your soul instead of stuffing it with distractions. Spend time in solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. Time where you're alone with your own thoughts, without external noise shaping them. Reignite the primal self. Modern life has stripped us of the raw experiences that make us feel alive. Movement, adventure, challenge. Bring them back. The more you do this, the more the emptiness transforms. Not into fleeting pleasure, not into momentary highs, but into depth, into something real. And the more real your life becomes, the more meaning begins to emerge on its own. Not as something you have to chase, but as something that was always there, waiting for you to return. Step 4. Burn the map. Forge your own path. This is the final step. Once you begin to see through the illusion, once you start reclaiming your real self, you will realize something profound. There is no map. Society gave you a script, a formula, a set of instructions for happiness. But those were never meant to make you fulfilled. They were meant to keep you compliant. The truth is, meaning cannot be given to you. It must be created. You must become the architect of your own existence. That means stop waiting for permission. No one is going to tell you it's okay to break free. Do it anyway. Reject the idea that meaning has to look a certain way. Your purpose is yours alone to define. Accept that the path will be uncertain, but uncertainty is not something to fear. It is the price of freedom. This is the rebellion, not against society, not against others, but against the false life you were tricked into living. And once you begin, you'll never go back. The emptiness that once haunted you, it'll become fuel, because it was never a flaw. It was never something to escape. It was the invitation, the call to something greater, the call to finally live. Imagine this. You are standing at the edge of a vast unknown. Behind you lies the life you once lived, the routines, the distractions, the endless cycle of chasing things that never truly satisfied you. Ahead of you, there is nothing but uncertainty. No pre-written script, no clear answers, just you and the raw, unfiltered reality of existence. Most people turn back. They return to the comfort of distractions, the familiar cage of societal expectations, the false security of following the script. But what if you didn't? What if, for the first time in your life, you stepped into the unknown, not with fear, but with curiosity? Because here is the truth that changes everything. The emptiness you felt was never the problem. It was the key, the great illusion of finding meaning. For centuries, people have searched for meaning as if it were some hidden treasure, something external, waiting to be discovered. Religion, philosophy, science, self-help. Everyone claims to have the answer. But what if meaning is not something you find? What if it's something you create? Nietzsche understood this when he declared, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." He wasn't saying that meaning is given to you. He was saying that you must choose it, build it, make it real through your own existence. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of Auschwitz, came to the same conclusion. He watched as people around him were stripped of everything, family, freedom, dignity, and yet some still found meaning, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. Why? Because meaning is not about what happens to you. It is about how you respond. It is not given. It is forged. And that is the secret that society doesn't want you to realize. Because once you stop looking for meaning outside yourself, once you accept that the power to create it has always been in your hands, you become truly free. The fear that keeps you trapped. But if it's that simple, why do so many people stay trapped? Because meaning is terrifying. Not having meaning is painful, but taking responsibility for creating your own. That requires something far greater. It requires courage. Most people would rather live a life of quiet dissatisfaction than face the terrifying responsibility of true freedom. Because once you accept that you are the one who gives your life meaning, there is no one left to blame. No more excuses, no more waiting, no more looking for answers outside yourself. It is all on you, and that realization is both the heaviest burden and the greatest liberation. you will ever experience. The power of living as a creator. There is a fundamental shift that happens when you stop seeing yourself as a passive observer of life and start seeing yourself as its creator. The emptiness that once haunted you, it transforms into a blank canvas. Instead of fearing the void, you begin to build within it. You no longer ask, "What is the meaning of life?" You ask, "What meaning will I create?" If you create meaning through deep relationships, you pour yourself into them fully. If you create meaning through mastery, you dedicate yourself to your craft. If you create meaning through knowledge, you seek truth relentlessly. If you create meaning through adventure, you embrace uncertainty and movement. The key is that you must choose. And once you do, something miraculous happens. Life stops feeling empty, not because some grand revelation suddenly appeared, but because you stopped waiting for meaning and started living it. The final realization: life was never meant to be easy. One of the biggest lies you've been told is that happiness is the goal, that if you just remove all suffering, all struggle, all discomfort, you will finally be at peace. But the greatest minds of history, Nietzsche, Frankis, Jung, Dostoevsky, all knew the truth. A life without struggle is a life without meaning. The people who feel most alive are not the ones who have eliminated all suffering. They are the ones who have chosen a struggle that is worth it. The artist who spends years mastering their craft, despite the pain of failure. The thinker who wrestles with deep questions, despite the discomfort of uncertainty. The leader who stands for something, despite the opposition they face. The adventurer who embraces risk, despite the fear of the unknown. Happiness is not the absence of struggle. Happiness is what emerges when you embrace struggle for something that matters. This is why the comfortable life feels empty, because true fulfillment does not come from comfort. It comes from purpose, and purpose is something you create, not something you find. Your choice. Return to the illusion, or step into the unknown. Now you are at a crossroads. You can return to the old way of living, to distractions, to chasing pleasure, to waiting for something outside of yourself to fill the void. Or you can choose to create. Create meaning, create depth, create a life that is uniquely, undeniably yours. Not because someone told you to, not because it guarantees happiness, but because the alternative, an unconscious, scripted existence, is no longer an option. This is the ultimate truth. You are not lost. You are unclaimed, not by the world, not by society, but by yourself. The emptiness you felt was not a curse. It was an invitation to step beyond the illusion, to take ownership of your life, to stop waiting for meaning and start creating it. And once you do, you will never feel empty again, because you will have become the architect of your own existence. And that is the only real freedom there is. The end. This is your moment. What will you do with it?